We're looking at factoring simple trinomials. When we have a simple trinomial that is in x squared plus b times x plus c form, we can use our magic x. So with our magic x, in top of our x, we're going to multiply whatever is our a and our c. And then on the bottom, we are going to put b. So we want to find two numbers that will multiply to get what a times c is, and then adds to the b. Okay, so let's look at this in example. All right, example 2. So I'm going to start by setting up my magic x. All right, on top, we take a times c. If there is no number in front of a, it's just 1, and then our c in this case is 12. So I have 1 times 12, which would get me 12. And then on bottom, I put my b, which in this case is the 7. So I want to find two numbers that will multiply to get me 12, but will add to get me 7. Okay, usually this is the hardest part, figuring out what we can multiply, but would also add. So if you struggle with this part, what I would do is start factoring. So I'm going to look at everything that I can multiply together to get me 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. I can multiply all of those to get me 12. Well, I want to look and see now if one of those, if I can add them together to get 7. And looking, I know that I can add 3 and 4 together to get 7. So my factors would be 3 and 4. And I'm going to put those over whatever a is. So in this case, a is just 1. Okay, I'm going to get in the habit of putting these over a, just so that we can get familiar with it. As you go, though, if you know that a is 1, you can leave that off. All right, so now I'm going to set up my factor. So I'm going to set up my parentheses. The number that goes in front of x is whatever number is on the bottom. So in this case, 1 is what is on the bottom, so it would go in front of x. Well, I really don't need that. I could just leave it as x. The second number is what's on top. Those are the 3. I would add 3. Do the same thing with the second factor. The number that's on bottom goes in front, and I add whatever is on top, which is the 4. Okay, again, I really don't need the 1 in front of my x's, so I can rewrite it and eliminate those. That is my factor for the original trinomial. Okay, example 2. Again, we're going to set up our magic x. On top, I multiply a times c, which will get me 15. And on bottom, I put whatever b is. Well, in this case, I have a minus in front of the b, so I'm going to add that with it, so it's negative 8. So I'm trying to find two numbers that multiply to get me positive 15, but add to give me negative 8. So I'm going to start by looking at all of my factors of 15. Okay, so those are my factors of 15. Well, none of those will add to 8, but if I make both the 3 and the 5 negative, they still multiply to a positive 15, but would add to a negative 8. So my factors are negative 3 and negative 5. I put those over a, just because I want to get in that habit. And then I'm going to set up my factors. Again, whatever number's on bottom goes in front of x. Well, it's just 1. I can leave that off. And then whatever number's on top goes behind the x. Well, I have a negative 3, so it's going to be minus 3. Second factor, I have a 1 on bottom, so I don't really need that. And then a negative 5, so it'd be minus 5. Example 3. Okay, on top I take a times c, Make sure you take the sign with it, so this is going to be a negative 24. And then on bottom is my b. So I want two numbers that multiply to negative 24 but add to positive 2. Okay, when I'm looking for my factors, I'm going to ignore the negative aspect of it for right now. I just want to find the two numbers that will multiply to positive or to positive 24, and then I will look at the negative aspect of it. Okay, so those are all my factors of 24. Now I want to see which of those two I can add together to get a positive 2, and keeping in mind that my 24 needs to be negative. Okay, so looking at all of these, I can see that my 4 and my 6, if I made one of them negative, it's going to give me negative 24 when I multiply. And if I make my 4 the negative, it's going to add to a positive 2. So that means my factors are negative 4 and positive 6. I'm going to put those over the a, which is 1. Now I can set up my factors. So x minus 4, x plus 6. All right, example 4, same thing. I'll set up my magic x. On top, I take a times c, which is just going to get me 6, and then on bottom is my b, which is negative 5. So I want to find two numbers that will multiply to get me 6. So those are all my factors of 6. Now I want to look to see, out of those two, I need, when I multiply, they're going to give me a positive, but they will add to a negative. So I can see on my second one, if I made both of these negative, when I multiply, they turn to a positive 6. When I add, they would give me a negative 5. So those two will be my factors. And I put them over a. Then I can set up my factors. Okay, so those are my factors for those trinomials.